if you will, with me. Instead of logging in to or searching for the normal things that you would on when you wake up in the morning and you're looking for something exciting on the internet, what about that thought of what you always kind of deep down thought that the internet could be and what could be possible? So you log in to WebV and you're in a vast, endless universe, and you see that at this time, you always log in, unless you're a active developer, you always log into a random place. You'll be dropped into a random place and to one of the 7 zones, with each having a various amount of planets in them. Most of them, one, two, a couple of the zones not having any planets. But you drop into, you say, the 4th zone, and you're near the ice world, and you see it in the distance, and it's illuminated by one of its suns, and it has only one sun actually, but the entire vastness of the is captured in the lighting system is borrowing from the idea of how molecules are excited and energized by light and sustaining of light and exuding each of the elements in the game of the objects, borrowing from this idea and expressing it. And say you're a new user and you get a random, in that case, you'll be dropped in the web space with a randomly generated spaceship, and you're cruising, and um, the actual experience of just flying the ship is quite entertaining. And trying to find the thruster um, combination with direction, and you're flying through. There's like little clouds of intergalactic particle space, and it's varied colors, and it kind of swirls, and uh, it dances with the movement of the ship, almost like with water. And you just heard about this thing, and you're at a web, not even a web cafe. You're just at a library, and um, you go and you find yourself at the ice world, and you've heard that there's different cities in the ice world, and there's monsters in the oceans, and there's cities in the ocean, and you find somebody parked uh, in their ship, and they must have recently landed because they're near their ship, and you go and you have a good conversation with them, and the conversation um, menu kind of hovers above the character, and almost like um, drifts towards you as the character, as kind of the visuals, and you'll have a conversation, and you can have sort of emotion uh, icons, and this person immediately after asks you, are you selling anything? Are you have anything to trade? And at that point you say no, because you just logging in for the first time, and they're like, oh well, man, this thing is really something else, and uh, I do poetry, and I sell music, and I sell videos, and here's the prices. And um, they ask you to travel with them to one of the ice cities. They heard about this event that's going on where there's like a migration of a certain species, and they heard from the desert planet that there's um, a good pay tied to, um, and so they invite you on this adventure with them to this certain city, and you do, and you join, and you carry on to and through um, the vast ice world, and most of it you're traversing with your spaceship over the surface, and this person has kind of coordinates, and they've got uh, um, coordinates, and you get to a certain location and you park your ships, and he also has with him a submersible submarine that he had just purchased from the desert world for this task, and because the the pay is so good that it was thought it would be worth it, and so you join him in his submarine and you plunge into the ocean, ice ocean, and it's very dark. And thankfully, he has lights on the ship. And as you transverse, you see not a whole lot, but um, you see several interesting fish that are too large. And as you go, he kind of describes a sort of migration of creatures that are um, on the menu, and before too long, you all run into migration of something else, and they're sharks of a terrible terror, and their faces are mean looking, and they end up they're very aggressive, and they end up kind of setting up an attack against your submarine, and they start circling and attacking and causing lots of damage to the submarine, and then this entire experience becomes very real and exciting for the person who's just logging into the web space. And then um, they end up not making it out of the ice or ocean, and or getting to their task. They get attacked, and these, whatever they are, this migration of sharks of the ice world type, there's very many, but this particular breed is able to break through with their hammerhead likeness, and they did, and ended up an unsuccessful mission for those two. But that particular experience inspired that person so much, they thought, wow, this is really something. I just logged in to the internet, and I usually just like do this and that, and I'm kind of just like was just, gosh, I'm really hoping that there was. I always thought that the internet could be more, and that's very true. And if somebody, this same person, decides to become an active developer, that for the price of $3 to $5 to $10 to $20 a month, just to have the ability to trade and sell, and with any of the other players and whoever's logged in throughout the planet, and whatever planet in the game that you interact with that person, um, with this very simple, very easy to use purchase and trade screen, and with certain sort of drop boxes in key locations and cities, and very very soon, hopefully, there's the account that the person has in the game that would be directly correlated to an actual card, sort of like a debit card that is involved with the website, and then in the future even have cash machines in various parts of the city that people could just get cash, or before that, that there would be relationships with Desiree banks, and the idea of what you thought could be possible with the internet certainly starts to become an exciting reality. And you think, what else is there? Well, there's a dark planet. What is that? Wow. There's a light planet. There's a food planet where you get to each person has their own unique food planet, and you can go and harvest and all different kinds of food items, grains, and create uniquely compounded food that kind of you can launch from a food catapult thing into space, and it influences space and is kind of like sending out your artistic um, heart to the universe, and it radiates and it pools out from your little food world. But other than that, your entire food world begins to change based on the food you're creating. And there's a music world that each individual has unique to them, that in this music world you can create music and based on scales and etc. And you can grab a frequency spectrum with the mouse and kind of manipulate it and twirl it around and do things that you thought in your mind. But what if I could do this with the music? What if I could actually put it in a scale pattern and put it in a this sort of pattern, and then grab these parts and then put it along at a certain tempo and see what happens. And then in the process of you're creating, the game will actually, based on the music that you create, you're almost like, you like create just like poof, oh, I created a spaceship, poof, I created some super clothes, poof, I created economic perk that my products that I sell and trade are now on the top 100 list that everybody sees, and that's a major one. Another random example is somebody who is an active developer drops into their kingdom area. Everybody who's a developer can build their own little kingdom space house, and all kinds of unique customization can be done. And they have on their task menu that you can actually post on your kind of, anybody who's passing by your house can see kind of what you got planned, where you are, find you, and all that kind of thing. And you have a plan to set off to find the psych world, and this person ends up finding has kind of tips from the desert world of how to get there. And there's ways to actually get to the psych world through the deep caverns in the desert world in a kind of supernatural way. But this way is just kind of transversing through space to actually find the planet, and they do. And the psych world will be very much adventure based, where you're just kind of just awe of the visuals and everything that's going on there. And there'll be fantastical creatures, both good and more sinister, and all kinds of various things that you can kind of get caught up into, and various fruits and things that you could harvest there. There'll be a couple dojos there with unique dojo masters at each of them that you can learn the way of the light or the way of the dark. And depending on what style you choose to develop your character vastly influences how you interact and go about missions in both the light and the dark world. Mainly the dark world. The light world is very different in that it's very difficult to get there, and um, but mainly in the dark world, based on your choice of being learning more way of the light or the way of the dark, is how you will be actually viewing the dark world and battling various monsters in that world. And in the psych world, you can interact with some of the creatures and etc. And there will also be a fire world that if you're very very few go to the fire world because of its nature. It's extremely extreme, and the creatures there are grotesque monsters that um, yeah, and to survive there longer than 5 minutes is quite a feat. But at certain times, there's opportunities to make adventures against some of the cities that are in the fire world, and the rewards would be drastic and vast. And so you log in and you're going to play with your clan, and you're going to play in the architecture world, and you're building in the Arctic sort of regions of the world, and you're building a movable building, and y'all are in the process, and you've created the limbs, and you've created a sort of pulley system for movement of the legs, and then one of the other people in the clan has created a generator that is interactive with water flow through an outer sort of membrane like skin that pinches and releases with electrical currents and causes movement into an aqueduct that is working, and y'all are working on it together, and you've been setting up times, literal times that um, some of these people are from different parts of the world, and but at live, y'all are at this architecture world creating a project, and there's a bunch of other projects being created by other people in the world. There's one architecture world, so um, everybody can kind of see what other people are doing and interact, and almost kind of create if everybody decides to interact with each other and kind of create whatever flying machines and hotels that are underwater, submersible, moving, look like creatures sort of things. And say there's a clan of people that you've kind of got connected to that are automotive people, and they're working all different automotive places, and they kind of just do fun uh, tasks together at different worlds, and they're in the dark world, and a lot of them are kind of the light, and so they're battling monsters in um, this neighborhood area, and they have kind of planned out an attack that they've gotten recon of certain sorts of monsters that are typical in this area and that could possibly be there. And you're on invite. You're invited to be a part of the battle, and even though you haven't kind of been training as much at the dojos and have as much uh, strength and weaponry, that they're kind of allowing you to learn, and you'll be staying kind of back and kind of viewing what goes down, and there's a major battle, and there's of all the various creatures that they kind of expected were going to be there are there, but also there's a couple uh, wild cards that are a lot more uh, strong and uh, more of a fight than they thought that they were going to get into. So they kind of had to retreat for a time from some major beasts that were actually, it was a good find because they kind of had just, you can kind of view and as you're more of the light, you can kind of see in the atmosphere like some certain areas were conjugated. Um, the idea of in the atmosphere, even like the coloration and kind of like putrid and different hues, kind of um, hinting at the idea of certain congregations of monsters that are at work in those areas. And say there's also another clan that you kind of connected to, and there's hundreds of them, and they're skaters, and um, they are in the water world, and they're doing a lot of uh, objectives in this third city. They've managed to find their way to the third city, and a couple of them have spent a lot of time to create an underwater automobile that can get to the depths, and they've uncovered a lot of fantastical things in the third city, and have been clued in on a lot of fantastical objectives that are possible in the psych world, and in the ice world, and in the desert world, and in the forest world. A lot of rare mysteries have been revealed to them, and from the forest world. And just to say, the forest world is a very mysterious place, and it's very difficult to find like tasks and things. It's just like the people in the are very seclusive, and um, but this clan has found insight to uh, make a good income from what they've learned, and you join them on in their clan and on their ventures to the forest world, and finding hidden caves and hidden um, areas and mountaintop areas, and talking to talking beasts, and learning from getting clues about um, different things in the psych world that are possible, and um, even in the music world, in your personal music world, in your personal food world. And in side note, on your music world, you don't have to have you can have on invite. These people only are allowed in my music world. That way you don't just have a bunch of people getting into your music world while you're trying to create a certain thing. But if you want, you can coordinate with random other people and create a piece of music together. But this clan has kind of informed you that they have an idea to um, long term kind of set up a gift care package for this unreached people group on another part of the world, that they want to build them an actual market that's has a sustainable marketplace for food. And um, they've raised uh, almost, like $270,000 from their ventures here, and their trading and their selling, um, and think of the popularity of this particular clan has gotten so popular amongst the world, and everybody that they trade and sell with then can rate their experience and also promote them to any of their other connections in whatever part of the world they're in. And so, for example, there's a couple of them who are better at making videos than others, and they end up getting, requests for thousands of videos from all over the world, and they're selling them for $5 a piece, and it does pretty good for them. But they also do um, clothing, and that's a whole nother thing for them that it's in their market. Um, and They tell you about this other group that's like a film group that they like to interact with, and this group of film people have gathered found each other in this game uh, from all over the world, and there's about 100 plus of them, and they're making a comedy series, and they're coordinating on making a comedy series, and they're making a comedy series that they've always or they've longed for, and it's like um, exciting, and they sell each episode for say $10 or something, and they have an audience around the world that are eagerly, hungrily waiting for every episode, and um, it becomes a major thing.